Hello, friends of the blue and white team. Kentucky, visiting with the No. 1 ranked prospect in 2026, Tyran Stokes. Will it be a big deal? Is this a mega move by Pope? The coaching staff led by Mark Pope is moving strategically, and the target, this time couldn't be more emblematic. Tyran Stokes, the No. 1 prospect in the 2026 class. The talented wing from Notre Dame Louisville KY received a visit this past Thursday. In yet another gesture that confirms the seriousness and priority the Lexington program places on the young man considered the jewel of the future, Stokes, who has already made official visits to Kentucky, Louisville, and Kansas, has commitments with Oregon, USC, and Gonzaga on his schedule. The list is extensive, but the Kentucky connection is immediately obvious. Not only because of the geographic proximity, playing practically at home is important, but also because of the program's history of developing high-level athletes into NBA-ready players. Pope knows this, and so does the staff. This week's visit is more than a courtesy, it's a reaffirmation that Kentucky doesn't intend to let the talent currently at the top of the rankings slip away. The recruiting momentum shows how the Wildcats' gears are turning at a high speed. The coaching staff also met with point guards Tay Kinney and Deron Rippey Jr., both in the same 2026 class. Early Wednesday morning, this intensity in the early days of the transfer window reflects a clear philosophy to ensure from the outset that Kentucky is seen as a top priority by the country's best young players. And the list of contacts doesn't stop there. Five-star forward Baba Oladoton is expected to be in Lexington for a visit later this week. Four-star center Ethan Taylor is also in the immediate plans. The move isn't isolated, but a coordinated plan that puts Kentucky on the radar of virtually every big name of the next generation. The difference, however, is that in Stokes' case, there's a palpable, almost inevitable expectation that the story will end with him wearing blue and white. The symbolic weight of this visit cannot be underestimated. Kentucky has a tradition of handling top-tier talent, but Pope is at a crucial stage in his project, cementing his image as the coach who not only maintains the Wildcats' tradition, but expands it. Securing a commitment from Tyran Stokes would be a milestone, a direct message that, even facing competition from Kansas, Oregon, or Gonzaga, Lexington is where the 2026 No. 1 seed will find the most solid path to fulfilling his potential. Given all of this, it's no exaggeration to say that Stokes' chances of signing with Kentucky are high. The timing of the visit, the proximity to Louisville, the program's track record, and the way Pope and his staff have approached this process all create a favorable equation. Stokes already knows the structure, has gotten a feel for the environment, and unlike other names still going through their first impressions, he has before him an option that blends tradition and future. Kentucky shows, with this busy and well-calculated schedule, that it won't just react in the recruiting market, it will lead. And if the current movement is any indication, the Wildcats are making steady strides toward, once again, building an elite class. Let's see how it plays out. A bit of the Cats' recent history. While many pointed to Baylor's Scott Drew as the most likely candidate to succeed Calipari, fate had other plans. Drew, after visiting Lexington and pondering the impact the move would have on his family, decided to remain in Waco. And it was in this moment of uncertainty that Mark Pope emerged as the surprising but, in retrospect, perfect choice to lead the Wildcats. Pope, who had already earned his place in the hearts of Kentucky fans as captain of the 1996 national championship team, brought with him not only nostalgia for a glorious past, but also a modern, fresh vision for the program's future. His hiring was met with enthusiasm, but also curiosity. How would he shape the roster? Who would be alongside him in the endeavor? And that's when Alvin Brooks III, until then Drew's right-hand man at Baylor, entered the picture. Brooks described that period as a huge moment of uncertainty. Someone so accustomed to working behind the scenes, helping build winning teams. The idea of changing teams, especially in a context as unpredictable as the college coaching market, was certainly not an easy one to process. He had to balance his career with the needs of his family, while trying to maintain his focus on recruiting and connecting with players. It was an emotional roller coaster, with every social media update seeming to bring new possibilities or doubts. However, when Pope called, something felt right. Brooks saw Kentucky's offer not only as a professional opportunity, but also as a chance to be part of something bigger. He visited Lexington, assessed the conditions for his family, and upon noticing the welcoming environment and the new coach's commitment to building something special, decided to take the leap. This decision reflects the spirit that permeates the program, a blend of tradition and innovation, of deep roots and an eye toward the future. Brooks's adjustment to life in Lexington wasn't instantaneous, but it wasn't difficult either. He acknowledges that the main difference between Baylor and Kentucky lies in the scale of the platform and the overwhelming passion of the fans. Kentucky fans aren't just spectators. They're active participants, always ready to demand results, but also to celebrate each victory as if it were their last. This level of engagement may be intimidating to some, but for Brooks, it's exactly the fuel needed to raise the bar, and the effort so far has been impressive. Under Pope's leadership, and with Brooks playing a crucial role in assembling the roster, Kentucky entered the 2024-25 season with renewed energy. Players like Lamont Butler, Jackson Robinson, and Amari Williams quickly adapted to the playing philosophy implemented by the new coaching staff. But what stood out most was the group's cohesion. As Brooks emphasized, quoting his friend Amir Abdurrahim, "Love wins." And this sense of unity, of belonging, was the difference that allowed the Wildcats to compete at a high level from the start. Pope's presence on the Kentucky bench is not only a tribute to the past, but a reminder that the essence of college basketball lies in the people. It's about creating bonds, building trust, and nurturing talent. It's about finding the balance between the pressure for immediate results and long-term development. And, above all, it's about inspiring the sport's next leaders. The story of Alvin Brooks III and his journey to Lexington is a microcosm of this philosophy. He could have chosen to remain at Baylor, where he was already established and comfortable. But he chose to embrace the unknown, trusting that Pope's Kentucky project had something special to offer. And so far, that gamble seems to be paying off. Now that the season is underway, Kentucky fans can look to the future with optimism. The combination of a coach who breathes the soul of the program, an experienced and dedicated assistant coach, and a talented and close-knit group of players suggests the best is yet to come. Mark Pope's rise as Kentucky's head coach isn't limited to what happens on the field. This week, the National Basketball Coaches Association announced that Pope has been appointed to its board of directors, a forum reserved for influential voices in college basketball, responsible for guiding strategic decisions and strengthening coaching representation at the national level. For a coach who just completed his first season in Lexington, the appointment is an unmistakable sign of prestige and recognition. The group that will form the board is comprised of prominent names. Pope will share the deliberation table with figures such as Scott Drew Baylor, John Shire Duke, and Brad Underwood Illinois, all coaches who lead high-impact and traditional programs in the college arena. Pope's presence in this environment puts Kentucky in the spotlight not only for its history, but also for the active role its coach plays in shaping the future of college basketball. The announcement comes at a symbolic moment. In 2024-25, the Wildcats had a historic season. 8 wins against top 15 opponents, 5 of them against top 10 teams. An unprecedented feat for the program. The campaign ended in the Sweet 16, returning Kentucky to a level it hadn't reached since 2019. For Pope, it was just the beginning of a demanding career. He himself didn't hide his self-criticism, rating his debut as somewhere between a B and a B, reinforcing his conviction that excellence at Kentucky isn't measured solely by progress, but by the ultimate goal, titles. The appointment to the NABC board, therefore, reinforces the narrative that Pope is not just a rising coach, but a leading figure in the sport. While many of his peers limit themselves to their teams, he positions himself in a larger arena, contributing to discussions about the future of college basketball amid structural transformations, such as changes to the NIL and athlete mobility. Through the transfer portal. NABC Executive Director Craig Robinson was clear in emphasizing that this new generation of leaders has the role of ensuring unity and consistency during an unprecedented period of transition. In this context, Pope represents a profile that combines practical experience, strategic vision, and the symbolic weight of leading one of the most iconic programs in the country. In assuming this role, Pope is not distancing himself from Kentucky's athletic goals. On the contrary, external recognition only reinforces the seriousness of his project in Lexington. He promised to raise internal standards, establishing a commitment to non-negotiable demands on controllable aspects of the game. The message is clear. If the first season brought signs of recovery and high-level competitiveness, the second promises to be marked by firm adjustments and an even more relentless spirit. Between the personal pressure for results and his new leadership role in college basketball, Mark Pope finds himself at a turning point. His name now echoes not only in Rupp Arena, but at the tables where the future of the sport is decided. For Kentucky, this means having someone at its helm who simultaneously represents tradition and modernity, and whose resume bears the stamp of national trust. And Pope is doing very well in this regard. Leave your comments.